Hey everyone, this is an abridged piece from A Petty Bourgeois Opposition in the Socialist Workers' Party by Leon Trotsky, which was from the 15th of December 1939, and published in the Socialist Workers' Party Internal Bulletin, Volume 2, Number 7, January 1940. The piece is labeled in the book that I'm reading it from, which is The Fate of the Russian Revolution, Lost Texts of Critical Marxism, Volume 2, The Two Trotskyisms Confront Stalinism, edited by Sean Matt Gomna. The piece is labeled as The ABC of Materialist Dialectics. Some people question what, if anything, Trotsky's idea of dialectics has to do with that of Hegel. Wait, is this an introduction? By the editor? I don't fucking know. I'll just read it. Some people question what, if anything, Trotsky's idea of dialectics has to do with that of Hegel or with different parts of mathematics. However, all that may be, what follows is what Trotsky thought dialectic thinking was, quote, closer approximations, corrections, concretizations, richness of content, and flexibility, end quote. The methods Trotsky applied in his work. He did not bring dialectics into the 1939-40 discussion as a diversionary tactic, as has been frequently alleged. Trotsky was explaining the method of thinking that led him to his conclusions on the USSR, its current reality, and its possible developments. So here we go. This is the last piece from the volume. Gangrenous skeptics like Souverine believe that, quote, nobody knows, end quote, what the dialectic is, and there are, quote, Marxists, end quote, who kowtow reverently before Souverine and hope to learn something from Souverine, and these Marxists hide not only in the modern monthly. Unfortunately, a current of Souverinism exists in the present opposition of the Socialist Workers' Party, and here it is necessary to warn young comrades, beware of this malignant infection. The dialectic is neither fiction nor mysticism, but a science of the forms of our thinking, insofar as it is not limited to the daily problems of life, but attempts to arrive at an understanding of more complicated and drawn-out processes. The dialectic and formal logic bear a relationship similar to that between higher and lower mathematics. I will here attempt to sketch the substance of the problem in a very concise form. The Aristotelian logic of the simple syllogism starts from the proposition that A is equal to A. This postulate is accepted as an axiom for a multitude of practical human actions and elementary generalizations. But in reality, A is not equal to A. This is easy to prove if we observe that these two letters under a lens, they are quite different from each other. But one can object. The question is not of the size or the form of the letters, since they are only symbols for equal quantities. For instance, a pound of sugar. The objection is besides the point. In reality, a pound of sugar is never equal to a pound of sugar. A more delicate scale always discloses a difference. Again, one can object, but a pound of sugar is equal to itself. Neither is this true. All bodies change uninterruptedly in size, weight, color, etc. All bodies are never equal to themselves. A sophist will respond that a pound of sugar is equal to itself, quote, at any given moment, end quote. Aside from the extremely dubious practical value of this, quote, axiom, end quote, it does not withstand theoretical criticism either. How should we really conceive the word, quote, moment, end quote? If it is an infinitesimal interval of time, then a pound of sugar is subjected during the course of that, quote, moment, end quote, to inevitable changes. Or is the, quote, moment, end quote, a purely mathematical abstraction, that is, a zero of time? But everything exists in time, and existence itself is an uninterrupted process of transformation. Time is consequently a fundamental element of existence. Thus the axiom, quote, A, end quote, is equal to, quote, A, end quote, signifies that a thing is equal to itself if it does not change, that is, if it does not exist. At first glance, it could seem that these, quote, subtleties, end quote, are useless. In reality, they are of decisive significance. The axiom A is equal to A appears on one hand to be the point of departure for all our knowledge, on the other hand, the point of departure for all the errors in our knowledge. To make use of the axiom A is equal to A with impunity is possible only within certain limits. When quantitative changes in A are negligible for the task at hand, then we can presume that A is equal to A. This is, for example, the manner in which a buyer and seller consider a pound of sugar. We consider the temperature of the sun likewise. Until recently, we considered the buying power of the dollar in the same way. But quantitative changes beyond certain limits become converted into qualitative. A pound of sugar subjected to the action of water or kerosene ceases to be a pound of sugar. A dollar in the embrace of a president ceases to be a dollar. To determine at the right moment the critical point where quantity changes into quality is one of the most important and difficult tasks in all the spheres of knowledge, including sociology. Every worker knows that it is impossible to make two completely equal objects. In the elaboration of bearing brass into cone bearing, a certain deviation is allowed for the cones which should not, however, go beyond certain limits. This is called tolerance. By observing the norms of tolerance, the cones are considered as being equal. A is equal to A. When the tolerance is exceeded, the quantity goes over into quality. In other words, the cone bearings become inferior or completely worthless. Our scientific thinking is only a part of our general practice, including techniques. For concepts, there also exists, quote, tolerance, which is established not by formal logic issuing from the axiom A is equal to A, but by dialectical logic issuing from the axiom that everything is always changing. Quote, common sense is characterized by the fact that common sense systematically exceeds dialectical, quote, tolerance. Vulgar thought operates with such concepts as capitalism, morals, freedom, worker state, etc. as fixed abstractions. Presuming that capitalism is equal to capitalism, morals are equal to morals, etc. Dialectical thinking analyzes all things and phenomena in their continuous change, while determining in the material conditions of those changes that critical limit beyond which A ceases to be a worker state ceases to be a worker state. The fundamental flaw of vulgar thought lies in the fact that it wishes to content itself with motionless imprints of a reality which consists of eternal motion. Dialectical thinking gives to concepts, by means of closer approximations, corrections, concretizations, a richness of content and flexibility. I would even say a succulence which to a certain extent brings them close to living phenomena. Not capitalism in general, but a given capitalism at a given stage of development. Not a worker state in general, but a given worker state in a backward country in an imperialist encirclement, etc. Dialectical thinking is related to vulgar thinking in the same way that a motion picture is related to a still photograph. The motion picture does not outlaw the still photograph, but combines a series of them according to the laws of motion. Dialectics does not deny the syllogism, but teaches us to combine syllogisms in such a way as to bring out our understanding closer to the eternally changing reality. Hegel in his logic established a series of laws: change of quantity into quality, development through contradictions, conflict of content and form, interruption of continuity, change of possibility into inevitability, etc., which are just as important for theoretical thought as is the simple syllogism for more elementary tasks. Hegel wrote before Darwin and before Marx. Thanks to the powerful impulse given to thought by the French Revolution, Hegel anticipated the general movement of science. But because it was only an anticipation, although by a genius, it received from Hegel an idealistic character. Hegel operated with ideological shadows as the ultimate reality. Marx demonstrated that the movement of these ideological shadows reflected nothing but the movement of material bodies. We call our dialectic materialist, since our dialectic's roots are neither in heaven nor in the depths of our, quote, free will, end quote, but in objective reality, in nature. Consciousness grew out of the unconscious, psychology out of physiology, the organic world out of the inorganic, a solar system out of nebulae. On all the rungs of this ladder of development, the quantitative changes were transformed into qualitative. Our thought, including dialectical thought, is only one of the forms of the expression of changing matter. There is place within this system for neither God nor devil, nor immortal soul, nor eternal norms of laws and morals. The dialectic of thinking, having grown out of the dialectic of nature, possesses consequently a thoroughly materialist character. Darwinism, which explained the evolution of species through quantitative transformations, passing into qualitative, was the highest triumph of the dialectic in the whole field of organic matter. Another great triumph was the discovery of the table of atomic weights of chemical elements, and further the transformation of one element into another. With the transformations, species, elements, etc., with these transformations, parentheses, species, elements, etc., end parenthesis, is closely linked to the question of the classification, equally important in the natural as in the social sciences. Linnaeus' system, parenthesis, 18th century, end parenthesis, utilizing its starting point, the immutability of species, was limited to the description and classification of plants according to their external characteristics. The infantile period of botany is analogous to the infantile period of logic, since the forms of our thought develop like everything that lives. Only decisive repudiation of the idea of fixed species, only the study of the history of the evolution of plants and their anatomy, prepare the basis for a really scientific classification. Marx, who in distinction from Darwin was a conscious dialectician, discovered a basis for the scientific classification of human societies in the development of their productive forces and the structure of the relations of ownership which constitute the anatomy of society. Marxism substituted for the vulgar descriptive classification of societies and states, which even up to now still flourish in the universities, a materialistic dialectical classification. Only through using the method of Marx is it possible correctly to determine both the concept of a worker state and the moment of that worker state's downfall. All this, as we see, contains nothing, quote, metaphysical or, quote, scholastic, end quote, as conceited ignorance affirms. Dialectic logic expresses the laws of motion in contemporary scientific thought. The struggle against materialist dialectics, on the contrary, expresses a distant past. Conservatism of the petty bourgeois, the self-conceit of university routinists, and ... a spark of hope for an afterlife. Again, this piece is labeled in The Fate of the Russian Revolution, Lost Texts of Critical Marxism, Volume 2, as The ABC of Materialist Dialectics by Leon Trotsky, 1940. This is an excerpt from A Petty Bourgeois Opposition in the Socialist Workers' Party, dated 15th of December 1939, published in Socialist Workers' Party Internal Bulletin, Volume 2, Number 7, January 1940. I have this piece on the channel. I have this piece on the channel. Leon Trotsky, A Petty Bourgeois Opposition in the Socialist Workers' Party. Anyway, thank you for listening. This is actually kind of a big moment for myself. Not a big moment, but a moment of note in the sense that this is the last primary source document from this volume. Now I'm going to read the introduction. So thanks for listening.